Hello, Amanda here, and today we're going to talk all about circles and lines and how we can combine the two to make some really cool shapes. So, the first thing we're going to discuss is what a tangent line is. So, if you ever take calculus in college or in high school, which I encourage everyone to do if you're in diffusion, you'll learn about how to find the line tangent to a curve. Um, but what we're doing in this application is we are going to be using circles, and you can also use arcs as well. But for this exercise, we're going to use circles. So let's first get into a sketch. So I'm going to left click on, you could either left click on create and go to create sketch, or you can go up to this icon, the sketch icon. I'm going to go ahead and left click on sketch, and now I'm going to tell Fusion where I want to sketch. And in this instance, I'm just going to start sketching on that top plane. So I'm just going to draw an arbitrary circle. So arbitrary means I don't care about the size or anything at that point. Arbitrary just means just kind of like a circle in general. It doesn't. I don't care anything about the characteristics of it at this point. I'm going to left click on the center diameter circle. This is the most common one that I choose to use. And I'm just going to move to the left of the origin. Remember this origin. I've never really talked about that. So the coordinates of the origin, if you take an algebra or anything like that, the coordinates of the origin are 0, 0, 0. There's 3 zeros because we have the X, Y, and Z axes. I'm going to just go to the left of the origin, left click and let go, drag outwards, and then I'm just going to left click. And my circle is blue here, indicating that it's not fully defined. I'm going to go ahead and press my escape key to get out of that circle command. And then I'm going to go up to the top and left click on the line command. Again, it looks like that kind of candy cane looking piece. I'm going to left click on the line command, and I'm just going to left click, let go, left click and let go. And notice how it still allows me to continue making lines, but I'm done with lines for now. I'm just going to press the escape key to get out of that feature. So I'm going to use a constraint known as the tangent constraint. And this is really handy. I'm going to go ahead and use it, and then I'm going to kind of describe what it is, kind of mathematically. So you could either left click on constraints if you don't remember what that symbol looks like for the tangent line. And if you scroll down, you'll notice it looks like a circle with a line touching it. And then if you look up here at the top in this ribbon, at the top under sketch, you'll notice that the tangent pieces here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and left click on tangent with the tangent constraint. So in these very fundamental classes, like mastering the basics really helps you to become an expert designer. Because as soon as you have these mastered, you can then combine them in different ways to be able to use them in really cool ways. So to use the tangent constraint, I'm going to left click on the circle first, and it really doesn't matter the order. And then I'm going left click and let go, and then I'm going to left click on my line command. And notice how the line wants to touch, or it kind of like goes in the direction of the circle. In this case, they're not touching. But as you can see right here in the center, this tangent symbol has appeared. And notice how next to my cursor and then next to the circle, it's essentially the same symbol. I'm going to press the escape key to get out of that constraint. And then notice if I drag my line over, how it has the tendency to stick to the circle. And what's happening is whenever you create a tangent constraint, this line mathematically is touching the circle at exactly one point. If you take calculus, you calculate the point at which they're touching. And so yeah. And this is a very useful tool. Also, whenever you're extruding later on, you'll see that if your circles and lines are not tangent, you cannot assume that there is a fully enclosed piece, which means that you cannot extrude. Generally, when students use circles and lines together and they're having trouble extruding, it's because they haven't created this relationship between the two of them. Okay, so to start with our lesson of circles and lines, I'm going to start a sketch. We're going to be designing a hanger, and you can scale down this hanger and make it small or big or whatever you want to do. And so all the units I'm using, I'm guessing, or all the measurements I'm using, I'm guessing. And so you can make yours whatever size you wish or want. You can measure your closet and really customize it to your needs. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a sketch. So I'm going to left click on create sketch, and then I'm going to tell Fusion where I want it to sketch. I usually like sketching on the top plane. It's just a personal preference. You can choose whichever plane you like. Then I'm going to go under document settings. It's in that kind of black box area. I'm sorry, I don't know why the screen recorder I use blocks this piece out, but that's just what it is. Under document settings, if you left click on the pen and pencil, or the paper and pencil here, your units will pop up. I'm going to use inches. I promise sometime in the future I will use the metric system. I'm American, and so I'm really used to inches in everyday life. And so my brain can interpret them a little bit faster than metric. And so that's just what I'm going to do today. I did learn about the metric system quite a bit. We did probably like 75% of like all the calculations as an engineering student were done in metric. So I have experience with it, but I'm still really used to the US customary system. So I'm going to just start off with a series of circles. So I'm going to left click on my circle. This is the center diameter circle. We are going to be using a 2-point circle at some point, but I'm just going to draw 3 circles. So this is my origin, and I'm going to talk about this in more detail probably in the future, but the coordinates of the origin are 0, 0, 0. So this third 0 represents the Z0 as well. And so if you've only taken algebra up to this point, just note that that's what that point is. I'm going to create a circle to the left of the origin. So I'm going to left click here, left click, let go, and then left click, and that's going to create 1. And then I'm going to go to the right side of the origin, left click, let go, and then left click. And then I'm going to zoom out a little bit, use my pan command, and then you have to exit your pan command. You have to right click and then left click on OK. And then I'm going to go a little bit above the origin, left click, drag out, left click. Okay, and then I want to get out of this. I'm just going to press the escape key on my keyboard. Okay, so I'm going to create what's called a construction line. And really the only reason I'm doing this is to show you what exactly I'm doing. So I'm going to create a line. So I'm going to left click on the line command, and I'm going to draw a line from the origin. So I'm going to left click. Oh, I messed the origin completely. I'm going to left click on the origin, and then I'm going to left click on the center of the right circle. It doesn't matter if you choose the left or right. Then I'm going to right click and then left click on OK. Okay, so now I'm going to create what's called a construction line. We're going to use a construction line later as well. I'm going to right click on this line, and I'm going to go down and go to normal construction. And really, I want you to see what I'm doing here. I'm going to create another line going from here to the top as well, and I'm not going to create one here, and I'm going to show you why that is in a minute. So I'm going to get into my line command, left click on the origin, left click on the center of the circle here. Then I'm going to right click and then left click on OK. So now I have these 2 lines. I'm sorry, I didn't even go into detail on what a construction line is. So a construction line is a reference line, but it is not actually part of the sketch. So you can kind of think of it as like a ghost line. But they're really handy whenever you need to dimension things. And in this case, I'm just using them so that you can see what the horizontal constraint is going to do in a minute. So I'm going to right click on my construction, I'm sorry, my line, and then I'm going to left click on the normal construction. Notice how it changes to these this dotted line here, and that indicates that it is a construction line. So now I'm going to go up to my horizontal vertical, and this is where it becomes really useful. So I want the center of the circle to be in line with the origin, and so I'm just going to left click on the origin, and then I'm going to left click at the center of my circle. And notice how that horizontal constraint is right underneath both of these, indicating that this is right in line. So if I drew a line, then this line, well, there is a line there. This construction line is horizontal now. And so you can use this horizontal vertical constraint not only on lines, but also on points. And I'm going to drag this one down just to show you so I drew these lines just so that you could see that that this line was horizontal. You can also, if you draw the constraint lines, the construction lines, you can also just left click on the line itself, and it will also turn into, and it'll also turn into a vertical line here. But then you don't need a line at all. So, and this is what I'm going to demonstrate here. I'm going to left click on my origin and then left click on the center point here, and notice how they're all in line with each other. So that's exactly what I'm doing, is trying to center that circle. I'm going to press the escape key to get out of that feature. The next thing I'm going to do is get into my dimensions command. I'm going to dimension these all to 1 inch, and then I want this distance here to be 14. I'm assuming that that is the distance of a hanger. I'm not sure what that distance is. In my head, it seems like it would be around 14 inches. And then I'm going to create this distance to be around, I think 4 actually looks pretty good. Okay. So I'm going to create one more line here, and I'm going to show you another constraint that I really like. So I'm going to draw a construction line. I'm going to try to get out of this black. I know that this area is black over here, so I'm trying to drag the parts so that you can see them. So I'm going to draw a line, left click on the line command, and then I'm going to left click on the center of the circle to the origin. Okay. I want to get out of the line command, so I'm going to right click and then left click on OK, right click on that line itself, and then I'm going to left click normal construction. So notice here, sorry, I'm getting over a cold. Notice how this line and this line are two separate lines, which is what we need. So I'm going to make these lines equal in length. So if this entire distance is 14 and I make these two lines equal, then each one of them is going to equal 7. And to do that, there's a constraint up here at the top, this equal constraint. I'm going to left click on equals. You can also find that by left clicking on constraints and finding it right here. Don't get it confused with parallel. That's another constraint that I'm going to talk about at a later date. But I'm going to left click on both of those construction lines, and notice how it moves it over and nicely centers it over the origin. Also, look at my circles. They're black, indicating that this is fully defined. We always want our sketches to be fully defined so that our designs aren't accidentally distorted at some point. I'm going to go ahead and press the escape key to get out of the equals constraint. The next thing I'm going to do is add lines, and we already talked about this. I'm going to add lines, and then we're going to make them all tangent. So I'm going to left click on the line command, and then I'm simply going to draw and connect the circles. What's nice about lines in Fusion is once you connect two circles, the line doesn't continue going on, and so you can just connect them all. To know that you are actually touching a circle, I'm going to zoom in here so you can see it. you'll notice it's kind of hard to see either way, but an X forms indicating that you are touching basically the circumference, kind of, I don't know what you would call that, the actual outline of the circle. So I'm going to left click on that circle and then left click here. Oh, I missed that one actually. If you happen to miss it, like I did here, I'm going to zoom, put this up so you can see it. So if you ever happen to miss, you can always drag that endpoint back onto your sketch. There we go. And so it's touching because you saw, or hopefully you saw that little X indicating that they were indeed touching. Okay, and then the last line I'm going to create is going to be between these two bottom circles. Okay, so the last thing we need to do is make these, well, second to last, is to make these all tangent to each other. Notice how this one is tangent at the top, but every point at which a line touches a circle has to have this. So every circle is essentially going to have two tangent symbols indicating that the line is tangent on both sides of it. And again, tangent indicates that that line is touching that circle at exactly one point. It can't touch more than twice because then you have overlapping. And what happens when an object overlaps on itself is that it cannot be extruded. And so that's why tangent is so, it's so just crucial to your design and making sure that your lines are tangent to your arcs or to your circles. So I'm going to left click on the line and then circle. Left click on line, make sure you're left clicking and let go. So left click on your mouse key and let go, left click on your circle and let go, and then just do that same kind of rhythm all the way around until all your parts, this one, I'm not sure. Sometimes, okay, so it all turned black, indicating, and sometimes Fusion's a little funny. Chances are there is a tangent symbol here, but it hasn't appeared, and sometimes Fusion just does that. But I can see that my figure is all black, indicating that it's nicely defined. I can click in here. That's a really good way to check if your piece is all the way enclosed, meaning there's no open spaces at all or nothing's acting weird. You can hover over it. If it's blue, that indicates that it can be extruded. Okay, so the last part we're going to do is we're going to use, we're going to give our piece a haircut here using the trim command, which is a really cool, I think all this stuff is cool, but you know, I'm kind of lame. Go to the scissors command. You can left click on modify here and find the trim, and then notice how there's a T for trim, and you can start using those shortcuts on your keyboard. There are some shortcut keys to the most commonly used things. I'm going to left click on that trim command. You can also left click up on it here. And I'm going to just trim off. I'm going to left click and let go on all of these circles. And then I'm going to press the escape key. And notice now that this is all one piece, which is exactly what we want. So once after all the pieces are moved, we're now going to use a really useful tool that's called offset. If I go up to modify here and I left click on modify, I can go down to offset, or there's the shortcut key of a capital O that you can press and the offset command will come up. I'm going to left click on the offset command up here. It looks like two arcs that are placed inside of each other, and you'll see exactly what this command does in a minute. I'm going to left click on that, and then make sure that the chain selection in that offset command pops up. Make sure that that's selected, and I'm going to go ahead and just left click on the outside perimeter of the piece that I created. Notice how a red line will appear. So I want the blue part to be, I'm going to go ahead and actually change the distance here first. I'm not sure what I want it to be, maybe like 0.25, so a quarter of an inch thick. And so that looks like maybe hanger. I want this red line though to be on the outside because I wanted my original sketch to be the interior of the hanger. So I'm going to go ahead and press the flip option here, and it's going to flip that piece to the outside. I'm going to press OK, and notice how my hanger is starting to take shape. So next I'm going to use my pan command. I'm going to left click on the pan command. I'm going to left click and go ahead and press down, and I'm going to zoom up here at the top. I'm going to start working at the top of this piece because I'm going to create the hanger portion of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into my line command, and I'm going to hover over this piece until this little green triangle pops up. What that indicates is that indicates the center of this arc. I'm going to left click on that piece, and I'm going to go straight up and go ahead and left click. Then I'm going to right click and select OK, left click on OK. So this is actually going to be another reference line that I'm going to use. But first, I want to go ahead and offset this piece before I make it a reference line. So I'm going to get into my offset command again. And then I'm going to left click on this piece. And then I want it to be half of that value that I put earlier, that 0.25. So that's like a quarter. If you take half of a quarter, you're going to have 0.125. So I'm going to have 0.125 for the distance. And then I'm going to go ahead and do OK. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for the other side. So this is going to be half of the piece, but I need the other half. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to center this hook over the origin. So I'm going to go ahead, if you hear a bunch of clanking, I'm sorry, my dogs are over here playing around. I tried to find a quiet place, but little creatures always seem to find me. I'm going to go ahead and left click on the offset command again, left click on this piece. Then I'm going to change the offset position again to 0.125. And I'm going to use the flip command so that it's on the other side. And then I'm going to go ahead and press OK there. So notice how I have these lines here. I haven't dimensioned this yet, so I don't really know what this distance is going to be like. It does look a little too tall. So I'm going to go ahead and dimension the height of this middle piece. So I'm going to left click on dimensions, left click on that middle line, and I'm going to make this distance, there we go. I'm going to make it probably 2 inches tall. Okay, and then notice how it automatically changes the dimensions of the other piece. That looks pretty good. So I'm gonna go ahead and go with that. All right, this time I'm gonna go into my create, and I'm gonna go and left click on circle. I've been doing a diameter circle, but this time I'm gonna do a 2-point circle because the 2-point circle, so the diameter circle allows you to start from the center of the circle to create it. I'm going to draw a 2-point circle out here just so that you can see. So with the 2-point circle, you essentially create opposite ends of the circle. So I'm going to left click once, and then notice how I can drag out and left click again. And so I clicked this side first and then that side, and then that's how the 2-point circles are generated. I'm just going to delete this circle, right click on it, and left click on delete. I'm going to get back into my circle command, go with my 2-point circle, and I'm going to start a 2-point circle from this point. So I'm going to left click on the far left line, the end point, and then I'm going to drag over to the left here, and then go ahead and press OK. So it's really starting to come together and look like a hanger. This part looks a little too big still, but we'll see. I'm going to go ahead and make this line, so this point flush with this point. So I'm going to use my horizontal command. I'm going to left click on the middle of the circle and then left click on one of the endpoints. Notice how these horizontal pieces come up. Go ahead and press that escape key. Then I'm going to get into my circle command. I'm sorry, my line command. And I'm going to left click at the end point of this one, which coincides with that. It's called the right quadrant of the circle. And I'm going to draw a line straight across. Okay. Take your time with this. This is a pretty advanced project, even for what we're doing, but notice we're only doing circles and lines, so don't get overwhelmed. Okay. So I'm going to use my scissors command, and I'm going to cut off the bottom piece of that circle. And notice how it only leaves me with this piece here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut off that line that I created. And now I'm left with this half an arc. And I can go ahead and dimension that arc. I think a radius of, let me zoom out. That looks pretty good for a hanger. So I'm going to give it about a radius of 1 there. I don't know. So I think that would depend on the diameter of like where you hang it at. And you can change this radius to fit yours as well. 3D printed hangers and everything that I'm created, I'm hoping that people can create 3D printed objects from it. So 3D printed hangers actually work really well. And you can like size these down to like work for any size of clothes, including like dolls or anything like that. So you could really have fun with this project. So I'm going to, again, use that offset command on, I was just going to do the arc, but it looks like it's selecting both pieces. I'm going to unselect that chain selection so that it just selects that arc. We know that the thickness of this piece here is that 0.25. So we can just put the 0.25 amount in there and notice how it automatically goes all the way to that side. And I'm going to go ahead and press OK. The last piece that I really need to connect to make this a profile is just this end piece over here. And actually, excuse me, I'm going to go back to the circle command because we haven't learned arcs yet. I would usually do an arc there, but since we haven't done arcs yet, I'm going to stick to our circles. I'm going to left click on the 2-point circle again. And then I'm just going to select these endpoints here as the part. Well, sometimes Fusion does weird things, and that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and select the endpoints. There we go. My cursor is having a lag. Yeah, I don't know if it's going to let me. For some reason, the circle command. Come on. Let's see if I can get it to follow me. There we go. And I selected the diameter circle. So I'm going to get the 2-point circle and then select those two ends. Okay, so notice how it gives me a nice rounded edge. Then I'm going to get back into my trim command and go ahead and trim that piece off. I'm going to get into my dimensions command, go ahead and dimension this piece. I'm going to dimension it to 0.125. And notice how it's still blue. It's because we need to create a tangent line here, or a tangent relation between that arc and this line here. And it's still not turning. It's still not turning blue. Oh, okay, I see. So I need to dimension the distance between the center of the circle and some line here, just to make sure we have all. So whenever you dimension, notice how you can have slanted dimensions. I want this straight piece here, and I'm just going to go with 1.75 for that height. And notice how it finally all the way turns black, which is exactly what we want. Okay, so the last thing I want to do is I want to right click on this line here, and I'm going to make that a construction line. And we could theoretically cut off this piece here, but it's really not that big of a deal. All right, so now that we have our overall hanger, the next thing I'm going to do is extrude my piece. Remember, when we want to create an extrude or a three-dimensional object from a two-dimensional object, you always have to be out of sketch. So I'm going to left click on Finish Sketch. So if I try to select this piece and this piece, notice how this one doesn't turn blue. So this, whenever this highlights blue, that indicates that that is fully enclosed. So what happened is when I started to draw this piece, this one was actually on the curve, but these two are not. Okay. And I did that to show how to go back and edit. So we want to right click on our sketch, and then we have to go down to the bottom left of the timeline that we've created. We can right click on that sketch, go to left click on edit sketch, and now it allows us to zoom in and we can edit this piece. Now we could either draw a line that extends from the endpoint of this line down to the arc, or we could use another tool that I really love. If I go up to modify, under trim is the option to extend. So I'm going to left click on extend. I'm going to left click on my left line, and notice how it extends all the way to the next sketch. And I'm going to do the same with the other side, and that's going to fully enclose this top piece. So I'm going to go ahead and left click on Finish Sketch. Notice when I hover over this piece now, it's now blue. I'm going to go ahead and center my piece here. I'm sorry for this black shape over here. The editing software that I use creates that. I'm not sure why. And so I try my best to not draw over here, but if it happens, I'm sorry, because on my screen it looks normal, but I understand whenever I'm recording that it doesn't. Go ahead and get into your extrude command, and then now we can select both parts of our hanger. I really don't know how thick a hanger is, but I'm going to go with the same distance as we did the thickness. So I'm going to go with 0.25, and it doesn't matter whether you extrude up or down. And then you can left click and press OK. So this is our really nice hanger. It looks really cool. I actually like the flat look. I think the flat part of it, like most hangers are round, but having a flat hanger will allow you to stack them closer together. I don't know, they might be harder to reach. So if you print one of these, let me know how useful they are or how well they work. The last thing we want to do though, and this adds strength to the integrity of our design. So I'm going to zoom in and show you. You see this sharp edge right here? So if you were to 3D print this, like whenever you have an abrupt edge next to each other, this is the weakest part. And if you actually look at hangers, they have a fillet here. We're going to go ahead and add a fillet. We've added a fillet when we did our phone cases to the outside of the case. So you can left click on the three-dimensional fillet. Make sure you're not in a sketch when you do this. This is a three-dimensional, so you can only add three-dimensional fillets to three-dimensional objects. So I'm going to left click on my fillet command, and I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to left click and select this. Then I'm going to left click doesn't matter. I'm going to press the rolly ball on my mouse down and then physically move my mouse. And that allows me to really hone in on the details and see this piece. And then I'm going to select this line here. So notice how it's this line here and the other line. And I'm going to play around with the radius. I really don't know. I'm going to try 1. And take a look at that. That looks pretty good, actually. I like how it looks. Looks nice. You can reduce that to 0.5 if you don't want such dramatic fillet there, but the fillet really doesn't get in the way of anything. And the higher the fillet, the more the stress is distributed along that arc. And so I think 1 looks pretty nice. I'm going to left click and go and press OK. And there you have it. You have a really cool, like, nice hanger. If you have a closet and a 3D printer, I mean, just print all the hangers in the house that you want. And then you can also customize it to sizes and different things. You could maybe even edit this and add name tags or whatever you wanted to be able to organize your closet. People that are obsessed with organization would love something like that. So if you know someone in your life that's obsessed with organization, make them some of these and let me know how they like them. So I really hope that you liked using very basic shapes, circles, and lines to create rather intricate parts, such as the hanger. If you have any ideas, please feel free to reach out to me. My channel is made for kids, so please have your parents or guardians reach out to me. They can message me through Facebook. At some point, I'm going to write a book that walks students step by step through this, and that might be an option if you needed something to kind of guide you a little bit more closely with all the details. I do try to give as many details as I can throughout these lessons because fusion is hard. And if you're suffering through this and you're frustrated, remember that 3 month mark. And when I mean 3 months, you need to be practicing fusion, at least 3 to 5 times a week for that 3 month mark to be significant. And that once you reach that mark, it should get a bit easier. If you're still before the 3 month mark and you're struggling through, just note that that's normal. That's what most people are doing. I'll try to be as detailed as I can with my videos. I know they're pretty sparse. My life is pretty busy. I am actually transitioning to working back as an engineer, which makes me sad. I'm getting out of education. But I feel like I miss working with other engineers. So I might end up going back to education at some point, though, because it's a really fascinating field for me. Like my channel, give this video a thumbs up if you like it. But overall, have fun, and I will see you next time. Bye.